Hello, everyone. In this video, we're going to talk about consumer surplus. Before we get into that, we need to come up with a few definitions, the first being of welfare economics. Welfare economics is just the study of how the allocation of resources affects economic well-being. And when we talk about welfare, it's composed of two measures of market value. So we have consumer surplus and producer surplus. Think of economic welfare as a measure of how well off or how efficient the market is. And the higher economic welfare means that more gains from trade are being realized. For now, we're going to think of consumer and producer surplus as the gains that buyers and sellers get from trading in the market. But in this video, we're going to focus primarily on that consumer surplus. So for consumer surplus, let's suppose that there are three government employees, Ron, Leslie, and Donna, and they need to enroll in an economics course. They all have a different willingness to pay, or WTP, for that college economics textbook. So WTP is the maximum price that a consumer will pay for a good or service. That's their reservation price. And it depends on buyers' preferences and how much money they currently have. You can kind of relate this to quantity demanded, or how much people are willing and able to buy. Here we see that Ron and Leslie have a willingness to pay of $200 and $150, while Donna only has a willingness to pay of $100. If the textbook is $140, only Ron and Leslie will buy the book because their WTP, or willingness to pay, is higher than that price. It's greater than that price. Now, when we start to look at consumer surplus, this is just the difference in your willingness to pay and the price that's actually paid to get the good. In our example, we said that that textbook was $140. So if we want to calculate Ron's consumer surplus, we take his willingness to pay of $200 and subtract out what he actually paid of $140. This means that Ron had a consumer surplus of $60. For Leslie, her willingness to pay was $150, while the actual payment price was $140. So her consumer surplus was $10. We don't worry about calculating a consumer surplus for Donna because she didn't actually buy the book, so she wouldn't have any consumer surplus in this case. Now, if we were to go ahead and plot a step demand curve, this just means that we're looking at a demand curve for several different people, or in our case, for Ron, Leslie, and Donna. This is what that curve would end up looking like because we had Ron's willingness to pay at $200. We had Leslie's willingness to pay with a max of $150. And then we have Donna's willingness to pay at $100. Now, for each of these individuals, if the price goes above their particular willingness to pay, their quantity demanded will be 0. But as that price decreases, their quantity demanded will go up. If the price is anywhere between 150 to 200, there will only be one quantity demanded because Ron would be the only one with a willingness to pay in that category. If it were anywhere between 200 and 150, that quantity demanded will be 2 because Ron and Leslie both are willing to pay. And anything that's under $100, there will be 3 people demanding that book because it fits into everybody's WTP, or willingness to pay. If that price is anywhere between $175, then Ron is getting a consumer surplus of $25 because he was willing to pay $200, but he only actually had to pay $175. If that price decreases down to only $125, Ron would be getting a consumer surplus of $75 because he was willing to pay $200, but he only had to pay $125. 200 minus 125 gives us Ron's consumer surplus of $75. At that price of $125, Leslie would also purchase the book, and she would get a consumer surplus of $25 because she was willing to pay $150, but she only had to pay $125. As that price is falling, just like we saw before, that quantity demanded is going to increase, and that consumer surplus is going to increase as well. Lower prices are going to be good for consumers because they allow more people to purchase a good and they increase the gains from trade. Now that we've taken a look at consumer surplus, you can head back over to Blackboard to watch the video on producer surplus. Thank you.